Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Fallout New Vegas. So, I did the long haul, or shorter haul really, of carrying items from about here to go to the commissary to sell items. That left me in a pretty good position to buy, or I already had the red glare, but buy all the mods for the red glare, which, you know, the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, that is a pretty violent song, come to think of it. And I guess in general American patriotism often is built around quite a bit of things, quite a bit of violence. So that brings the damage per second up to 419 for this with those 3 mods. I don't think any gun is really going to have more than 3 mods because there's just really not enough room on the screen for it. I also have an HH tool nail gun, no mods available for that. And so I'm going to want to try that later, but I think really they expect you to really play with this. As for everything else, it's just kind of gone. Like, I spent the money, I upgraded the weapons as much as I could and repaired them as much as I could and sold them for more money, and that is basically it. There was a challenge for using this red glare rocket and getting all of the upgrades. There is also an SMG upgrades that I may have a few of them, but I don't have an SMG. Yeah, it's 2 M's in this case, not 1 M, which I think SMGs usually have 1 M. As for the actual story, it's kind of interesting how this plays out, in that it really is just a long road, a lonesome road, which you're going towards something. It seems like things are going to get maybe a little bit more dangerous as we get to this point, but yeah. If nothing really slows us down too much, we may be done in 2 or 3 episodes with this DLC. And your level of, like, searching may not really need to be that high. When I fast traveled to this location, that is kind of where I started. So, seems like a kind of odd place. Just knives lying around. So we turn on the flashlight. The one thing I don't really appreciate with this DLC is just the vast amount of dust storms. Like, inherently, this looks like this is a new sign too. The dust storms are there to fix a problem with the rendering of this game, and a modern game just wouldn't have that. I also clicked on the Ralphie sign that was inside of this location here. But there may be other Ralphie signs. I just clicked on the first one I saw. And the game feels a little frame ratey when you're bouncing up and down. Here we can see what it looks like for our character to be bouncing up and down, reading all of, carrying this giant weapon. I have 403 rockets. Yeah. What a modern game would almost certainly do is that you would have every part of the actual interactable world, the 3D models that have something physically blocking you through walking through them, you would have that visible, and then you would just have a general skybox full of storms to give the artistic, fictionalized feel that there's storms always going on. Alright, so I don't think shooting the top there. Well, that was a lot of damage. I don't think shooting the top of it though actually does anything. I'm now crippled. Seems like maybe the game wanted me to be crippled. There's blood all over my face that I imagine will slowly fade out. Big explosions and what sounded like a car alarm, which inherently I question whether that is in canon with the Fallout universe either, because there was very much this idealized thought of a American exceptionalism and the United States citizens being all good citizens, and anybody who's evil is obviously a Chinese spy or Chinese sympathizer. So the general distrust of your fellow American by having a car alarm seems to be outside of the idea of that. That you would at least be required to pretend like you trusted other Americans. Okay. See, that just looks like that is going to the overpass, and it looks like there isn't anything else here. Notice how the fire is very much just a visual effect, and you can walk right through it without it hurting you. It looks like you could go up here, but I'm not sure if this is going to take you too far from anything. Yes, we can look out windows and see places that we might have not searched. Just turn on the flashlight.
We haven't seen anybody in a while. Maybe the monsters have stealth suits too.
The stealth suit is a nightmare as far as a really good piece of armor that you would want to wear, and then just a terrible interface that you can't do anything with. The only thing I guess I could say is it's probably time to interesting armor zapper combat inhibitor. It's probably time to turn off the AI personalities in Big Sync and see if it turns off the stealth suit also. So it is just a loading section. Interesting. So it's like a transition.
Grant actually went to Colonel Autumn and got approval for her damned efficiency guidelines. All experiments will be carried out with the test subject fully active to reduce iteration time. It's barbaric. I've explained this to the Colonel. Just because the iBots don't have true AI doesn't mean they're just machines. I guess results are all that matter around here. Forget things like ethical procedures or humane treatment. I'm starting to have serious misgivings about leadership around here. At least I've got you to talk to, huh, Eddie?
So here we have a couple of things we can choose, and basically I guess this is a DLC that is a longer running companion quest for Eddie, making up for the fact that Eddie's companion quest had to be a little bit lackluster in the main game because he just didn't talk. Definitely in this world, robots seem to be more than machines. Almost every robot seems to have some kind of human brain and an organic elements to it. They basically are all cyborgs at the very least. And so are we going for the happy building options? Sounds more like a father than an inventor in these logs. He must have tried things. He doesn't seem like the type to let it slide. And obviously some of these have just already been exhausted, so why would I click on them again? And I'm not going to redo text dialogue. Okay. I hear some growling. Is that supposed to be marksman, or is that supposed to be something else? Like a bear. We haven't seen any bears in this game. Is this the idea that the marksmen in this underpass in particular are even worse? Stronger? Yeah, it really does kind of give off the feeling that the red glare is one option. So 13 more of those we'd have to find. And then the nail gun might be the completely opposite armor piercing option, stealth option. I want to pick up a bunch of tin cans. But it also kind of feels like there could be very little here. We have an American flag billboard. Radiation's not going to hurt me, but it might hurt other people. Bravo team mission orders, quest item. Yeah. Didn't start any new quest. Death Claw. Duffel bags. So I guess we're finding either something worse than a Death Claw or some kind of marksman Death Claws. Which, introducing that as a concept is a interesting thought, certainly, if all of a sudden there were going to be marksman versions of other enemies and it was going to just bring up dangerous past or newer, more dangerous animals. We have another NCR Ranger. We have another NCR Ranger. And so this open sunlight here I thought was an indication that this tunnel here would go further. I guess not. So it's still a linear level. It's just had a little corner. So weirdly though, we still are running into the same old problems where it's a lot of inventory searching. I probably should figure out if I can convert some of these rockets into something even more deadly. But I question the just maximum ness of
Nobody ever
that.
notices me, but they notice the Pip-Boy light.
Yeah. Is there something here I'm supposed to...
Nobody ever notices me, but they
Singing
notice
line
the
of
Pip-Boy
ballad.
light.
So we curve here, and then we're going up this way. This is very much not.
Oh no,
What-
we're out of
what-
medics.
Okay. So we have a hulking tunneler. That did 9 XP. I'm getting like reduced XP. I don't know why. And that's nothing. As far as a challenge, of course I am playing on very easy, but it is at least something different. I guess we have to go back and ask, was that the wild wastelands that caused those to spawn? Probably not.
Sneaking done. Fighting now.
Wow. So this guy has like really high knockback. We're getting a lot of
Fighting
crippling
over.
in the background. So if you ever needed to get crippling,
Pip-Boy lights on.
definitely use the Rocket's Red Glare for that. I don't know if Eddie is not somewhere knocked down. I guess not. Yeah. Okay. So there's a safe here. So we almost have 100 bobby pins. I guess the question here to ask is, now we're over encumbered, but we could probably work with that fairly quickly to fix that issue. I kind of don't want to repair knives, but they're too heavy to not repair them. What was I gonna say? Lost my train of thought. Let's just use this NCR stuff. I may not have ever collected mantle armor, so I'm going to keep that, but I'm going to get rid of the Ranger Patrol armor and the other one. And the Ranger hat can't be repaired with that. Okay, and that weight alone reduced quite a bit. It is an interesting question as to whether things should be heavy based on their value or whether things should just be of random weights and of random values. Whoops. I have to jump around here a little bit to get back on the right path. Oh yeah, what I was gonna ask was, would more tunnels have worked in the Mojave like it did in Fallout 3? And I've already said in previous episodes I would have wanted to see more tunnels, so obviously I do think that's the case. And with more tunnels, having tunnelers like these, I think adds an extra twist instead of just having tunnels be full of the zombie characters. Why would power still be on? Everything here is just so tilted, though. There definitely is a overemphasis on that. I guess this is what the tunnelers spawn out of. The tunnels in Fallout 3 were subway tunnels.
Uh-oh.
Venomous tunnelers. So these guys do just come out of nowhere.
This will keep you on your feet.
They seem,
Cessation of hostilities complete.
they definitely seem like they only take damage when you hit them with VATS straight on. So it may be a case that red glares explosive damage is somewhat limited. I would say it's a mistake, though, to have only one enemy if you were going to have more tunnels in the game. It would definitely make a lot more sense for there to be multiple enemies. Have to be careful, keep an eye on my health here. I dropped all the sunset sarsaparillas, just not wanting to carry the weight of them. But yeah, I guess overall I do see a thought here. More tunnels also gives you a way to have larger dungeons, which, let's face it, we're not really seeing a lot of, we didn't see a lot of larger dungeons in the game, in the main game. And it allows you to hide loading sections if you have stream loading. That my thought there would be that I suspect the Gamebryo engine does not really have the technology. It's obviously going to be older type of game engine, so I wouldn't be surprised if it has no stream loading, by which I mean as you approach one part of the level, the part of the level that's a mile behind you deloads, and the part of the level that's a mile ahead of you, it loads, or some amount of space, probably not a mile in any real metric. Of course, streaming loading comes with its own problems, in that it's difficult to optimize even in modern game engines, and can lead to excessive loading, which can lead to inaccurate frame pacing or micro stuttering. At this point, even if I had a skill at, like, explosives here is at 99, there's just no reason to read a book at this point. Not unless I could re-roll my traits. And if I re-rolled my traits, then the remaining 3 levels I can take would probably not get me back to 100, all 100. And it's not like you really get anything for getting all the skills up to 100. It's just now, once the game has been mostly played, you are at the highest stats to accomplish, I guess, the last few things that may still be unfinished in the game. Yeah, it is kind of idiotic logic. It only really makes sense if there was a new game plus and you wanted to play the game from the beginning with all the skills at the maximum. Which you can do that using console commands and cheating, but you can't seemingly do it legitimately.
There you are. You went quiet for a time. Thought you might have returned to Vegas, its comforts. took that machine with you. There's a lesson here in the divide. Old world history about holding on to something so tightly it breaks or falls apart. May have seen the cracks in Vegas's walls already. If so, they'll grow in time, no matter how much you back house.
I don't know why I'd really back Vegas as a line of dialogue. Because honestly, I don't see anything personally in Vegas that makes it special. It's just a city being run by 4 corrupt mobster families, effectively running casinos. And overall, the whole Mojave is not particularly impressive. It's not a bastion of ideals of democracy or freedom or anything at all. The strongest ideals are kind of capitalistic colonialism, corruption from NCR, and downright insane like imperialism from Kaiser. And even if you get the wild card ending and you just bet on yourself, you're effectively just having you as the player decide that you're better than the NCR or the Legion, which is probably true, and then you're given a generic explanation in the credits that you did it better without really explaining how you would do it better. Like, and I don't know what I would really do if I was in charge of the Mojave. Having the force of the robots, you could have a forced peace through autocrat totalitarianism, certainly, but to what end? Like, at a certain level, you look at these Fallout games, and because they're older games, they just don't have that many people and NPCs in it. Not enough to realistically make a argument that society would be in a good position to stay alive. So I would probably run the Mojave by trying to force as many people as possible to, as efficiently as possible, grow food and other resources first and foremost, because either an army is fed and kept alive, or a populace is fed and kept alive, and you probably need a little bit of both. Then there would probably be a hopeful move to increase the quality of life of everybody, so that everybody would start to have more children, so there would be more people, so then there could be a more educated populace to maybe optimize things. You could also have a larger army. Certainly, you do get this easy out with the Securitrons in New Vegas, which in reality, if you were running a world in the post-apocalypse, you wouldn't get that easy out. But yeah, you make schools, higher learning, increase the quality of life of everybody, increase the resources of everybody, try to grow food. That's probably about the best thing you could do. And in the middle of Vegas, that'd be an incredibly hard thing to do as far as just growing for food and becoming a Garden of Eden type location. Best bet you could probably do is just have a lot of solar panels and a lot of electricity, and then trade for food and try and lean on other locations that are less deserty. But yeah, I don't know what you really do after that. Like, I don't know how you unite the many tribes in the Mojave. There's no foundation in the story to explain that. And I'm kind of rambling here. just to pick a simple thing. So let's just go with the first one and pretend like our character we're playing as is more of a optimist than I probably would be.
Your future with House has two roads. The road the tribals in Vegas walked, their spirits crushed. Or your face on a robot servant, smiling forever in a dead casino. There's future in neither.
So yeah, a lot of this conversation also just doesn't apply because we've already killed House and we've already gone down the wild card path. Let's just go with what you have against Vegas.
Vegas is old world, filled with old world ghosts. And ghosts need the living to do their work. That's why the families are there. Why the bear stumbles there to lose itself. It's a dance. I don't know its purpose. You've seen the wall. It's what's inside that worries me. That's the wrong word. Theater is better. The families, the bear, all on a stage. House, he's the one watching. The why, you'd know better than I would. If you don't, you will.
So, yeah, he's basically giving you, this DLC is giving you more warning and more setup to meeting House, but realistically, by level 25, you probably should have made it into Vegas and already met with House. Yeah. I kind of get the feeling that there was a different way this game could have gone down, in which I would have met House, and then there would have been a lot of busy work in between meeting House and being able to move the main story forward, and instead I did all the busy work first before really meeting House.
No, only seeing his works. Those he's broken with light and gold. His messengers. But everything in Vegas speaks of someone who can't let go. House takes a shovel to history's graves, props up the dead, then puts words in their mouths. The tribes don't even know how they were broken. Not a world I want to be a part of. Going through motions until we're all smiling faces on some robot's screen.
So I guess he's making an argument that Ulysses here is more about personal freedom and letting go of the past, or maybe not letting go of the past, learning from the past. Yeah, I think they're trying to set up Ulysses to be the exact opposite of House, but so far as an extreme opposite to House that he still would be in the wrong. I don't know really if that's coming off particularly well. This feels like this is definitely inspired by the story that was told in Bioshock 1, which people probably mostly forget about the story of Bioshock 1 for the most part, just the general important bits people remember. But you spent a significant amount of time hearing the words and thoughts of a different character other than Andrew Ryan. And he was very much supposed to be the exact opposite of Andrew Ryan. And so you had a situation there where you could have very well sided with either Andrew Ryan or the other character. Here, I don't think I'd ever side with Ulysses or House. And frankly, I didn't really side with Andrew Ryan or the other character. I forget his name. I think it was Atlas, maybe.
You've seen the wall. Safe? No. What's inside? That's what worries me. Inside, old world's waking up. No facts or history I've heard tells me that city ever went to sleep. And that makes me think. The blue of the Mojave skies isn't like the rest of the world. Don't hear a Geiger ticking there. More to fear from predators than rats. The city, the whole Mojave, wasn't hit by bombs. Been my call. Vegas would be one of the first pieces of the old world to burn. Someone protected it. Wasn't chance, wasn't luck. Something larger. Yet they let the rest of the world suffer. And they'll do it again.
So we kind of already know this. What happened. And yeah, he's almost making a moralistic decision, which feels kind of out of character for the Fallout universe, because I definitely get the feeling that drugs were just fully accepted pre the bomb is falling, and I think that, you know, gambling and alcohol, sex to a certain extent, also seems to have been fully accepted in pre-war, pre-bombs falling. So I don't know where Ulysses would really get such a puritanical view. If anything, there's very little talk of any actual religious belief of any kind in the Fallout universe, which is common amongst video games that don't want to be controversial. So maybe the alternate universe of Fallout compared to the real world is that religions are just not usually a big thing. There have been some vaults that turned into cults, but that's about it. And we see churches, certainly, and they seem like they might be Christian-based churches, but they may just never have been as big of a deal. Also, it's still worth pointing out that the bombs fell hundreds of years after, current year, 2024, as I'm playing this. So, a lot certainly could have changed in between then and now, both in the Fallout fictional timeline and in the real world.
The high road, not the divide yet. Many more miles to walk, but you got this far. You and that machine that shadows you. Wasn't sure if both of you'd make it. Above, then below the underpass.
Let's ask some basic questions. Well, let's start with the NCR.
You see true, not scavengers. It's what they wore before this all happened. Pain.
The scene
makes
is
for strange
super blown
allies.
out.
The hate the bear and bull shared across the battlefield now turned against the divide. Few survived, intact. Many NCR were already here when the destruction happened, keeping the route east open in fear of Caesar, fear of the Legion.
So it seems like this divide may have happened recently. I wasn't thinking that.
NCR couldn't be allowed to reach it easily. Long 15, Cayman, both bad enough. Kimbo, Kaiser, House. You'd think that our world was that wall, cutting the Colorado. If I'd never laid eyes on it, never spoke of it. But once found, it was all Caesar could see. That, and the flag beyond it, another symbol, big enough to challenge him. And the divide, one of the roads to it. Legion was tasked with cutting that artery. If you can't kill the bear in one stroke, bleed it, starve it. That kind of murder. It's what any of the Legion would have done. Now, the divide belongs belongs to history.
Now I just realized Ulysses here is probably Graham, the guy who left the followers of the Atom with Kaiser before Kaiser became Kaiser, and or he might be the burned man, which maybe is Graham. That might all be the same character, which that would connect and certainly explain a lot too, as far as why there was so much talk about the burned man and then we could never find anything more about the burned man.
Tunnelers, predators that make their own roads beneath the ground here. Divide broke their sky, showed them the world above, and the scent of new prey. Be a slower death for the Mojave than bombs and fire, but they'll come for its people, from where they least expect, below.
I also wonder if maybe Ulysses here has set off some kind of weapon that created the divide.
Makes sense. Truth favors that. Matches the history of this place. Were signs they were here for a long time. Before marked men. Before what happened to the divide cracked their sky. If so, they were buried deep. Might have been born the day America's embers started to settle. Seen worse things twisted by radiation.
Also have a survival.
Death will come from below. In the divide, need to watch the sky and the ground. Mojave will be easy prey for them. They'll start emerging throughout the Mojave in time. Might be years, probably less.
So they're saying the tunnelers are gonna attack the Mojave eventually.
The strongest in the Mojave.
So I'm gonna have to kill them all probably.
Seen them tear apart death claws. Deathclaw might get some, but the rest will swarm it, tear it apart, like Denver hounds.
Interesting, we have an explorer perk dialogue.
Mojave and the Divide aren't the only places I've walked. Walked the east too, before the bull came. Then, much like Mojave before the bear, tribes, towns, clutching to life. Bull did a better job. They bear
A lot of
false
dialogue here.
versions of Leggett the Muse's mask. The one Caesar fashioned for him. Thought it was an insult at first. No better now. It's shaped from divide metal, not with care and strength, but with hate. Keeps them anchored. Crude, effective, like the blades they carry. Distant mirrors of their legate, a symbol they can hold on to, while the divide tears at them. For the two-headed bear, NCR, they don't have symbols in the same way Legion does. They revere their mines and explosives, guns. That is their religion. Death from afar. Take pride in it.
So basically this is saying if they're wearing a mask, they're going to attack one way. If they're not wearing a mask, they're NCR, they're going to attack a different way. Or at least they're going to have different items on them.
The tapes. Didn't think those would be found. You know the divide better than I thought. Had tech from the big empty. Recorder a woman gave me. Didn't survive the road, on its last legs. Cast it and the tapes aside. Weren't worth the words anyway. Not like I'd forget what happened. If you heard them, nothing but ramblings, reminders for a man who doesn't need them. Probably more lying from here to the divide. Maybe not. Who's to say?
Yeah. It's so crazy to have so much of the dialogues just crammed all together.
Maybe there was purpose in that.
I would very much prefer this to have been a walk and talk.
We'll see at the end of the road.
And frankly, I would have just preferred that this entire dialogue just happened as I was walking through the underpass.
At the end of the high road lies Ashton, its silo. That machine with you, it can open it, wake it up, like it did the one in Hopeville. Hate? No. There's nothing to hate in metal, steel, gold, or platinum. Your machine, it's just a tool made of wreckage of the divide. All that was brought here.
Of course, the idea that he would be Carter, or the burnt man, seems like it would directly contradict with the idea of Ulysses being involved with Eddie's development in any way.
You know the why of it. If you don't, I do. And that's enough. Shows trust only walks so far west. Earned more than that, though, getting this far. We walk the same road, carry the same colors. Can't break that by making the road red. Want more than that? Walk the divide. Answers will come. Closer you get to home. You and that machine.
I think it's also important here that to point out that his voice acting seems to be about the best voice acting we've seen in the game so far as what I would expect stereotypical type of accents to be in a Las Vegas area, in a southern country type area. I guess I'm gonna pick this one.
Many in the Mojave think the divide's nothing but canyon and storm. Wasn't always. There was life. A town farther west. Not talking about an old world town like Hopeville. More recent. Something you saw in your lifetime. It had the name, the divide, too. But rather than cracks in the earth, it was a road from the west into the Mojave, a supply line. Took a courier to make that road. You. Back then, you saw the road with eyes facing east. This time, the divide's in the other direction. And if your eyes try to make sense of it when you reach it, home's not what it was.
So yeah, again, you've been shot in the head, so your character probably shouldn't know this.
All roads lead back to one's home. Not your birthplace, maybe, but home. Home isn't where you were born into this world. You taught me that. Part of your message, whether you meant it or not, can be a place of mind, a moment where you know who you are, the history of it, and they can be places you breathe life into. Never would have known the divide had it not been for you. The road you made with your tracks again and again. You were the only one willing to make the journey to and from here. A hard road. Kept the land before the divide alive through seasons, storms. Can't have been just a job. Was something more to you. Don't feel for a place that hard unless it's home.
So this is unlocking, I guess, references. And I guess we're denying this.
It means everything. Even if you deny it, cast it aside, that speaks to what you are. Proves what happened here. It was you walking that road that kept the divide alive. It grew from what you did. Settlers, camps, filling that old world city. Chance for a new nation, new beginning, new way of thinking. Could have breathed new life into the Mojave, bridging east, west, like Hoover Dam. But not old world. Something you made. Road was a supply line.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to say he's assuming, because I can't really speak for how the main protagonist character thought. Like, I'm not getting any insight from what the character thought.
No, recounting history. NCR saw the worth in that road you made. Staked a claim, whether it was wanted there or not. True elsewhere in the Mojave. And where the bear tries to cling to life, the Legion comes, bearing messages. Some brought by blade, others by couriers. You knew what was coming, as sure as I know what's coming for you. This time you carry the burden. Walk west into the sun, and keep walking until it dies. There, I'll be waiting.
As just a lot of everything. So we have 17 points, which means we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this. In fact, we might as well just do that. And there's no other skills. And we're at level 48, so by next level we'll be at 100 on everything. Meanwhile, let's go just to the bottom and see where we are. We can have good karma. Which this would reset your karma at level 50. And probably not really worth doing, because karma actually I don't think really does too much. This would reset your karma also and give you other stats. Well, does it reset your karma? No, this one doesn't. This one resets your karma. You have to have bad karma. So, inherently, I probably would take this if I'm going to take any of those. They may all just be kind of terrible. I mean, you could just get a massive amount of health and immune to critical hits and 10% damage increase at the end of the game. The other things I guess I can't do here is my strength is just not high enough to do this one. Strength is not high enough to do this one. And cannibal would be the options. And let's see. Turning on broad daylight so you can sneak is not necessary. Turbo's not something I would want. Wastelander with the most gear wins, or at least survives. You can now carry an additional 50 gear. If there is nothing else here to take, I would consider taking the item modifications that make things less than a pound half their weight, because I am with Big Mountain carrying a bunch of that smaller crafting items. On the other hand, we aren't getting any more perks pretty much. This is the second to last one. So I need to be very careful about what I want to take here. Like paralyzing palm is not one I think we can take. Weapon strength requirements are not really an issue. Action Girl will give you more action points, which is not really that useful. I could see early in the game taking something like Light Step just because you're irritated by running over mines, and then as you've run into fewer and fewer mines throughout the game, realizing how big of a mistake that would be. A lot of these just increase your odds. And the funny thing here is that to do this right, I probably need to take the cannibalism perk. As silly as that may sound. Either the Mr. Sandman perk or the cannibalism perk. There clearly are some perks here I'd rather take, like Pack Rat. Items with a weight of 2 or less weigh half as much for you. That would solve a lot of problems. But I can get around those problems other ways. And then most of these weapon upgrades, pretty much all of the weapon upgrades, don't make a lot of sense. Yeah, I think I have to take Cannibal. So now I'm a cannibal, which is to say I can eat human flesh. The question is, will I eat human flesh? Probably not until I'm done with the whole game, and then maybe I'll run around, or this is a terrible zoom. Maybe I'll run around for an episode or two, just being
I hope it
evil.
doesn't hurt too bad. We don't have any medics.
We have a character named Beast.
Time to fight.
And there's a mysterious stranger, which they actually got the mysterious stranger in
Was
the
that all?
right camera angle. But I had to hit the B button to come out of that camera angle. Interesting. So where'd the other guy go? Over encumbered immediately. Let's see if we can adjust that. That's as much as I want to do at the moment. There definitely were sections like this in Borderlands where you were on top of partially intact highways. Definitely added just a slightly new location as far as ideas. And frankly, I wonder if there wasn't some cross communication. What inherently happens in game development is people are very chatty and they share ideas and they show off their games to other game developers, and ideas are either shared freely or stolen. Nobody's come out and actively complained about people stealing ideas, because it is an artistic form that's varied enough that you're just not really going to have the same outcome. You have a mutilated skull. Is this because I'm now cannibal? I can just pick up all these mutilated things. There's a commissary. Like, I should have been able to eat their bodies. Something seems weird here. This is the first time we've been able to cook anywhere. We've seen a campfire. It's not unheard of, though, to have a level.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's not unheard of to have levels that are
Fighting
on
over.
highways. One thing I would say Borderlands does that this doesn't seem like it's going to do is that they would just be parts of bigger parts of the world instead of being.
I bet no one has ever been as unnoticed as me.
Just the entire level. Whether you're on a highway or not, this still comes off very much like it's a empty. Don't have enough caps to heal any of these. Okay. So we see 6,000 caps here in this commissary. And I see some armor that doesn't seem like it's all at the highest level. I think I probably did sell some of this stuff to him, but not everything, so unless I was just gonna sell satchel charges. Nothing's in the highest level. Yeah. So here's your human flesh, which I've picked up some human flesh before. So I guess I could have probably just eaten the human flesh before. So did I potentially just waste a perk by picking up when I could have just eaten human flesh and become a cannibal for free? I hope that wouldn't be the case. Don't know if it is the case though. It may be the case that I need to also fast travel to every commissary in the game. Because I'm gonna just have to like buy back some items. But probably not. So mutilated arm, leg, and skull and torso. All are heavy items that don't have any use, as far as I can tell. Okay. Guess we'll keep the mutilated stuff, since I don't think I've gotten that before. And then we'll sell that, and I think that's about as good as we can get. The question to ask here is, there some new cooking ingredients recipe here that uses human flesh? You'd think it would just be called human flesh, if anything. No. I'm not seeing any kind of recipe to cook human flesh or take a mutilated arm and convert it into human flesh. So that might be that was just a weird collection of items I could collect. I'm not sure I fully understand how the divide could have been created this way. Like, how could the ground shift so much and maintain a highway that was in any way?
Cessation of hostilities complete.
So let's see if the laser detonator can hit this from that distance. Yeah, you can see it's glowing. It definitely also seems like that. That would have killed one marked man from the looks of it. Again, I'm playing on very easy, so maybe it is a case that there would have been 4 or 5 marked men otherwise in this area. The skeleton just seems like it's all twisted up. I don't know if it's supposed to mean something, or like they were lying on top of somebody, or just got crushed, or but there's a lot of these spots here that look like they would be something. They really aren't anything. And I guess we had to go through here, maybe. It seems like this would be weird if just behind a nuke was some kind of medics withdrawal. Alright, so there's a whole verticality to this. I don't like this. This feels very much vertigo inducing. Yeah, you gotta be careful, certainly, about how you create games like this. Crow's nest. It's because people definitely can suffer from vertigo or just fear of heights in general, even in video games. And yeah, just a screenshot of something like this can convince some people not to play the entirety of your game. Most games know that, or at least seem to know that, and don't go that route. So here we have another Ulysses log. Let's start it playing because we know it's going to be long. We can find it.
Big, empty. There's something hidden there. A crater. Past wind and sand. So deep in the desert, there's no turning back. Finding the crater was an accident. Was following the weather patterns. The divide's
Okay, so that's basically sounds like that's just backstory as to the Old World Blues DLC, and it makes me wonder that there is a possibility that the other two DLCs are also
We
all
haven't
going
seen
to
anybody in a
involve
while. Maybe the monsters have stealth
Ulysses.
suits too.
It's also worth pointing out that this is going to be fun. If I had fallen down that path, I would have fallen to my death, and then the game would have reloaded to the last time it was saved, which would have been when I entered this area. Which, yeah, there's definitely a danger if you're going to have a cheap kill section. So I'm still waiting to try and find somebody to attack with this nail gun. If this nail gun does prove itself to be completely useless and not penetrate armor or anything, then I have no understanding as to why they would introduce it. I guess that does highlight the issue of feature creep and power creep. I guess more power creep than feature creep. But if you are going to add a new gun to a game via DLC, it would have to be something somebody might actually be capable of playing with. And I definitely would approach the DLC if I was in charge of making this game I'd approach it from the concept that there's just more than enough items already in Fallout. There's still several items that are total junk items. There'd be way more junk items if it weren't for the fact that Big Empty converts a lot of the junk items into usable crafting items. Adding a new gun like Red Glare may have been good enough. It would have focused the story better if Red Glare was just a gun you were given at the beginning of this DLC, and then you were heavily encouraged to only use it. Which, that in general would be a better move, because clearly the game developers want to encourage the players to play with a variety of guns, and one way to do that would be to have DLC. So apparently there's some kind of code with the color pattern. I don't know what I'm supposed to learn from that, or if I will learn anything from that.
No more medicine. So sad. Time to fight.
So is that a tunneler I'm hearing outside? No, it's a death claw. You can see shield happening there, not allowing me to penetrate the defense of the death claw.
Please take this. I don't want you to die.
Here we have another death claw.
Have a
They
stick.
can't figure out how to pathfind. Just total
Fighting
explosions.
over.
That is too intense. And it is odd that you have this like delayed cripplings. So yeah, even on very easy, if I hadn't been wearing the auto stim injector stealth suit, I would have been relying exclusively on whatever auto stim pack injectors or super stim pack injectors I had in my inventory. That being said, that works most of the time anyways. Really intense, and I don't see how you would have seen that coming. Misfortune, still not getting the proper depictions. And that looks like that is a nuke. So I wonder if thematically, storyline wise, the idea is that you're supposed to just nuke everything and burn it all down is being echoed by the fact that we are setting off nuclear warheads. And I guess there is a question certainly to ask as far as why it says there's a death claw down here. Looks like it's stuck under the ground. Maybe Misfortune knocked it. Roughing It bedroll kit. Roughing It bedroll kit allows you to sleep just about anywhere under the sun. Select it and pit point, sleep your cats away. What? So then the perk of Roughing It is a pointless perk to take? From the looks of it? Unless the Roughing It bedroll kit is just like really heavy.
Time to fight.
There's still really nothing in this game though that would encourage me to sleep that much. Or sleep outside. And in this case,
done. Fighting now.
In this case in particular, it would be impossible to sleep because there's enemies nearby. Enemies that seemingly have really, really poor pathfinding on the very broken surfaces.
This one looks pretty tough. Half a stim pack.
Suffice to say, I'm not really loving this experience.
Fighting over.
Particularly being over encumbered, blowing up death claws right in my face, exploding their body parts potentially all over the place. There's not, from the looks of it, really a path down there that we can reach, but maybe there is. Maybe we will end up walking under this overpass and double backing on the same path. There is a weird feeling on this in that if this is the middle of the DLC, what in the world is the final part of the DLC going to be? Are we going to be fighting some very challenging, very heavily armored Ulysses character who's going to potentially be shooting rockets right back at us. That would be my assumption. Although it also kind of feels like we may not fight him at all. Wouldn't it be? It'd be a more interesting twist, more than I would really expect this game to do, if it turned out Ulysses is just some kind of robot. Some kind of companion robot that, I don't know how that would have been a courier. It probably couldn't have been an iBot. Ulysses is some kind of human brain inside of a Brahmin's body. Never seen that as a thought. Brahmins being experimented on. Finding a lot of magazines. Still don't really have any use for the magazines, particularly with all my skills at 100. And there's the only real trade-off, I guess, as far as skill points, would have been to not take the studied perk, or not perk, but trait at the very beginning of the game, and then taken some other trait and then just use magazines. And that probably would have left you at about 80% of everything. I think that might even be worth experimenting with if we can do another psychological evaluation and end up with different traits. I assume we picked the traits at the beginning of the game. There was the doctor that did a psychological evaluation, but I don't think that led to him pre-selecting any traits or suggesting any traits. This is too long of a road.
Yeah, all due respect, sir, I think you're making a mistake. We're close to a breakthrough with the Duraframe iBots. I can feel it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I understand that we need the Duraframe assets for Hellfire armor, but... No, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't think we've seen any Hellfire
I'll tell
armor
the
in
team
this
to start
game.
disassembling the ED series prototypes right away. Eddie, you little rascal, were you eavesdropping again? I think those videos you watch are a bad influence on you. How much of that did you hear? Didn't Dr. Grant say she'd upgraded your navigational systems? And I think I have an idea. How'd you like to be just like Ralphie?
Let's ask the basic question. Let's just exhaust all of this. Let's go with I think I would have liked him. I don't care one bit about the chain of command. Human mating calls. I'm just gonna leave the let's get going there. So let's just look at the map here and see where we're heading to. There's a Junction 7 rest stop. Some of these higher building paths don't lead to anything. And then there's the Ashton silo. So from this, I don't feel like lead lined boxes, I guess, imply that the items in the boxes wouldn't be irradiated by the radiation around them. Of course, the fact that they had lead lined boxes is kind of surprising, because it definitely seems like the Fallout universe is full of people who don't really care about radiation being a thing. I would have generally leaned towards believing that the pre-bomb citizens didn't know that radiation was bad at all. And if anything, they probably said it was healthy, like they used to say smoking cigarettes used to be healthy. Or at least pretend that. I do like how much this rocket gun fires very fast. With the mods, at least, on it. So it'd be a very unusable gun if it was slow. Regardless of how much damage it technically does per second. Which I would dispute whether this actually does 400 damage per second. It sure doesn't feel like it's doing 4 times the amount of damage that a 100 damage per second weapon would do. I'm trying to avoid walking over to places. Just an incredibly slow walk. And you can see the female form with the stealth suit is being fairly tight, so you get a little bit of a hip swivel. Notice how her upper torso is not moving at all. It's just generally bumping up and down. And it's not like you can see your feet. So it's only in this third person perspective that you would see the hip swivel animation at all. So for such an old game, it definitely would make a lot more sense to not animate that at all and have the game be just first person. Yeah, I guess generally I would say it's a mistake too. We've missed the rest stop somehow. How did we miss the rest stop? Well, I guess we are potentially going downward. And maybe there is just a whole other bottom part of this section. I was half expecting a missile to come and land in this area. The map just ends here. But it looks like you might, if you weren't overburdened, you might be able to jump up there and find something more. Up in that spot. But being overburdened, I also kind of know that there's not anything possibly going to be here of any real value. Where is Eddie? Okay. So, I guess I need to end this episode here. I'm going to see if I can off-screen talk to Eddie and combine some of the items, the 415 items, just refilling things. We'll get rid of the HH nail gun, and hopefully we won't just be overburdened by the next episode. Then of course we'll figure out this rest station, and then we'll go here, and then I guess there may still just be a long journey this way in this, so feels like we are maybe 2/3 of the way through the game. Very linear experience though compared to the other open world experiences. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and keep on watching. Thanks.